Welcome to Life Stories. Betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from those we trust the most. What would you do if the person you loved and the family you cherished shattered your world? Emma had everything: a fiancé, a future, and a family that seemed unbreakable. But one shocking discovery changed everything. Instead of breaking, she decided to fight back in the most unexpected way. A story of love, loss, revenge, and redemption unfolds in a way no one saw coming. Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's tale. Let's dive into a journey of heartbreak, justice, and ultimate transformation. I always thought betrayal would feel like a sudden punch to the gut, something immediate, sharp, and unmistakable. But when it happened to me, it was nothing like that. It crept in slowly, quietly, like silk wrapping around my throat, tightening with every unsuspecting breath until one day, I found I could no longer breathe at all. That day, I wasn't even supposed to be home. My name is Emma, and I was supposed to be picking out flower arrangements for my wedding. A migraine had forced me to reschedule. So instead, I drove home earlier than planned, looking forward to nothing more than an afternoon of rest. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed a familiar car, Lily's. My sister. Strange, I thought. She should have been at work. A small part of me wondered if something was wrong. But as I stepped out of my car, I brushed the thought aside. Maybe she had taken the day off. Maybe she had stopped by to visit. The front door was unlocked. That wasn't unusual. Jake and I had always trusted that our home was a place of comfort, where family could come and go freely. I stepped inside, closing the door softly behind me. The house was quiet, save for the distant sound of muffled laughter from upstairs. My stomach twisted. Something about the sound, the giggling, the familiarity, sent an uneasy shiver down my spine. My feet felt suddenly heavy as I climbed the stairs, each step bringing me closer to a truth I wasn't ready to face. My heart pounded, already knowing what my mind refused to accept. Then, through the crack in my bedroom door, I heard her voice. Jake. Lily's voice was soft, intimate in a way that made my skin crawl. We should tell her soon. A pause. Then his voice, Jake's voice, followed. I know, baby. After the wedding. Okay. We'll figure it out. The world around me seemed to tilt. For a moment, I stood frozen, my mind scrambling for an explanation, any explanation that wasn't the one right in front of me. Maybe I had misheard. Maybe it wasn't what it seemed. But then, my hand moved on its own, pushing the door open. There they were. Jake, my fiancé, the man I had loved and trusted, and Lily, my sister, tangled in the sheets we had picked out together just a month ago, the same sheets that, until now, had been ours. Lily scrambled, pulling the blanket around herself, her face contorted with panic and guilt. But Jake just sat there, frozen, as if caught in a moment he hadn't prepared for. Oh, God, Lily stammered. This isn't, I mean. We're going to what? My voice came out eerily calm, though I felt anything but. Wait until after the wedding to tell me you've been sleeping with my fiancé? Silence. Jake finally found his voice. Emma, please. We didn't mean for this to happen. It just did. I laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. Oh, it just did. Lily started crying. 3 months, she whispered, her voice barely audible. And I'm pregnant. The room spun. 3 months. While I had been planning our wedding, picking out centerpieces, writing vows, imagining a life with Jake, they had been planning their own future. My fingers curled into fists at my sides. Get out. They hesitated. That hesitation alone infuriated me. Did they expect me to listen? To reason? To understand? I grabbed Jake's clothes from the floor, shoving them into his hands. Get out. Lily sobbed, covering her face. But I had no sympathy to offer. I stood in the doorway, blocking their exit. forcing them to face what they had done. Jake dressed quickly, avoiding my gaze, his expression unreadable. Lily, still crying, clung to the blanket as if it could shield her from the weight of her betrayal. As they shuffled past me, she reached for my arm. "Emma, please," she begged. "We need to talk about this." I jerked away as if burned. "Don't touch me. Ever again." The next few days passed in a haze. My mother called constantly, leaving voicemail after voicemail, her tone shifting from concern to frustration. "Emma, you need to come home. Lily's devastated. She needs her sister right now." She needed me? I finally answered on the fourth day. "She needs me?" My voice cracked with disbelief. "Are you serious?" "Sweetheart. These things happen," my mother said gently, as if explaining something trivial. As if I was being unreasonable. "Lily and Jake, they're in love. Real love. And with the baby coming." "Stop." My throat tightened. "Just stop. We're having a family dinner tonight," she continued, ignoring me. "Everyone will be there. We need to discuss the situation like adults." Like adults. As if this was a misunderstanding that could be sorted out over dinner. I should have refused. I should have let them deal with their own mess. But a part of me, a foolish, desperate part, wanted to hear what they had to say. So I went. The dining room felt suffocating, the air thick with unspoken tension. Lily sat next to Jake, her hand protectively resting on her stomach. My mother hovered anxiously, my father staring at his plate as if he wished he were anywhere else. "We're getting married next month," Lily announced, her voice tentative, as if she expected me to be happy for her. "A small ceremony. Nothing fancy." My mother beamed. "Isn't it wonderful? You'll be an aunt. Emma." The words were a slap in the face. I stood so quickly that my chair toppled backward. "Wonderful?" My voice trembled with fury. "My sister sleeps with my fiancé. Gets pregnant. And that's wonderful. Now, Emma," my father finally spoke, his tone firm but tired. "What's done is done. We need to move forward as a family." A family. I swallowed the bitter lump rising in my throat. "You want to know what family does?" I forced myself to meet their pleading eyes. "Family protects each other. Family doesn't steal your happiness and expect you to celebrate their betrayal." Lily started crying again. She had always been good at that. "Please. Emma," she whispered. "I love him. We love each other." I looked at her. At Jake. At my parents, who had already chosen their side. Something inside me hardened. They wanted me to forgive. To forget. To pretend. Instead, I turned toward the door, pausing only to say, "Congratulations on your perfect little family. I hope you're all very happy together." As I drove away, my phone buzzed with messages I wouldn't read. They thought this was the end. Poor Emma. Running away to lick her wounds. But they were wrong. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. I didn't cry. Not at first. There was a strange kind of numbness that settled over me in the days after that dinner. Like my body had gone into self-preservation mode. I went through the motions, waking up, going to work, eating when I remembered, but inside, I felt nothing. Just an empty space where love and trust had once lived. Then, on the fourth night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, it hit me. They had taken everything from me. My future. My home. My family's love. And what did they get in return? A fresh start. A life together. A baby to tie them even closer. No consequences. No regret. That was when the rage finally came. It wasn't the kind of anger that burned hot and quick. No, this was something deeper. Colder. It settled into my bones, whispering to me in the silence. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could make sure they never forgot it. That was when I came up with the plan. I threw myself into my work, pushing every emotion down and replacing it with ruthless efficiency. Late nights. Early mornings. Extra projects, anything to keep my mind occupied. The harder I worked, the less time I had to think about Jake's hands on Lily, about the whispers of real love and family my mother had tried to force down my throat. And then, 6 weeks later, my boss called me into his office. "Emma, these numbers are outstanding." Craig, my mentor, looked up from the reports I had compiled, his expression one of genuine admiration. "You've doubled your client portfolio in a matter of months. The board is talking about a promotion." A promotion. More money. More security. More power. I smiled. "Thank you. I've been focused." Focused is an understatement. He leaned forward, studying me carefully. "And house hunting, I hear." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "I'm closing on a property next week." "Where?" "The Colonial on Hamilton Street." Craig let out a low whistle. "That's quite a first purchase." "You sure about this?" "More than anything." "Absolutely." That evening, I met Eric at our usual coffee shop. He had his laptop open, real estate documents spread across the table. He looked up as I approached, his expression unreadable. "The sellers accepted your offer," he said without preamble. "But there's something else." He turned his screen toward me. I stared at it for a long moment before the laughter bubbled up dark, quiet, almost disbelieving. It was a photo of Lily and Jake, standing in front of the same colonial house I had just bought. The caption read, "Can't wait to start our new chapter. Dream home. Baby on the way." Eric ran a hand through his hair. "They don't know." "No," I murmured, taking a slow sip of my coffee. "They think they're getting it." "Emma," he exhaled. "Are you absolutely sure about this? Once you sign those papers." "They're meeting with the realtor tomorrow to make an offer." I cut him off. "An offer they can't afford. By the way, I've seen Jake's financials." Eric blinked. "How?" "Denise in accounting. She owed me a favor." He leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "Almost." I pulled out my phone, showing him the invitation I had just received. Lily's housewarming party. For a house she didn't own. Eric whistled low under his breath. "She still doesn't know?" "No." I smiled, remembering the renovation schedule I had just approved. "But she will. Very soon." Lily's excitement was palpable in the family group chat. She posted every update: fabric swatches for curtains, paint samples for the nursery, links to baby furniture she wanted to buy. Every message was dripping with the enthusiasm of a woman who believed she was stepping into her perfect life. A fresh start. A happily ever after. I let her have it. For now. The week passed in a blur of signatures and legal documents. Every time I saw my name on the deed, a slow, simmering satisfaction settled in my chest. This was mine. The house. The decision. The power. Then, just 2 days before Lily and Jake were set to meet with the realtor, Denise from accounting stopped by my desk. "Did you hear?" she whispered, eyes wide with barely contained gossip. I didn't look up from my computer. "Hear what?" "About Jake and Lily." Now, that got my attention. I sat back and folded my arms. "What about them?" Denise leaned in conspiratorially. "Their mortgage application was denied. They're devastated. Apparently, Lily's been crying all over Facebook about losing their dream home." I feigned surprise. "That's terrible." "I know. Right. And with the baby coming and everything." Denise shook her head. "Oh. And your mom called the office looking for you. Said Lily really needs her sister right now." I smiled tightly. "I'm sure she does." Back at my desk, I opened my email to find the contractor's final quote for renovations. The amount was a fraction of my savings because, unlike Lily and Jake, I had been smart with my money. I forwarded the approval. Then, my phone lit up with a message from my cousin. "Eliana. Family dinner tonight. Please come. They're announcing the baby's gender." I typed back without hesitation. "Can't." Working late. Her response was immediate. You can't avoid them forever. I smirked. Watch me. That evening, I drove to the house, my house. It was empty. Silent. The porch needed repairs. And the paint was peeling. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that this was mine. Eric pulled up a few minutes later, stepping out of his car with an exasperated sigh. I figured I'd find you here. I was just imagining the possibilities. He walked up the porch steps beside me. So, when are you telling them? Soon. We stepped inside. The rooms were bare. But I could see it all, Lily's nursery plans. The kitchen remodel she had talked about. The garden parties she had envisioned. They're having a girl. You know, Eric said. I turned to him. Found out today? He nodded. I didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, pressing my hand against the cool glass of the bay window, the one Lily had gushed about on social media, I whispered. Don't make me feel guilty about this. Eric sighed. Emma. They didn't feel guilty about what they did to me. Silence stretched between us. Then, my phone buzzed again. It was a message from Lily. Join us in celebrating our new home. Can't wait to share this special moment with everyone we love. Eric read over my shoulder. Then shook his head. She still doesn't know. I smiled. No. I glanced at the renovation schedule on my phone. Then took one last look at what would have been their dream home. In 30 days. The contractors would arrive. In 31 days. Lily and Jake would realize exactly what they had lost. And I would be there to watch it all unfold. Denise was the first to notice. You're different lately, she said over lunch one afternoon. Studying me with narrowed eyes. Calmer. Almost, scary calm. I stirred my salad. Watching the lettuce leaves swirl like tiny green boats. I'm just focused on work. Please, she snorted. Leaning in. You're plotting something. Spill. Before I could respond, the restaurant doors swung open. And in walked Lily. Even if I hadn't seen her, I would have known. The shift in the air. The tightening in my chest, something inside me still reacted to her presence. She made a beeline for my table. Her belly now undeniable under the soft, flowing dress she wore. I reached for my menu, pretending not to notice. It was too late. Emma, she said breathlessly, her face lighting up like we were long-lost friends instead of estranged sisters. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I kept my voice light. I've been busy. The restaurant was full of my colleagues. And I refused to let her turn this into a spectacle. Congratulations on the gender reveal. I added smoothly. Lily pulled out a chair, uninvited, and sat down. You'd know more if you came to family dinners. Denise raised her eyebrows but wisely said nothing. We miss you. Lily continued, her voice softer. I felt a prickle of irritation. We. As if she and Jake were some unified force that I was simply expected to accept. Jake misses you too. That was the last straw. I gathered my things. Standing. Sorry. I have a meeting. Lily reached for my arm. Wait, our housewarming party. You're coming. Right. I looked at her. At the hope flickering behind her eyes. The new house. The one she still believed was hers. We found another one, she said quickly. Even better than the colonial. Everything happens for a reason. You know? I smiled. My lips tight. Does it? Of course. She hesitated. Like me and Jake. Sometimes the universe just knows better than we do. Denise choked on her water. I clenched my jaw, forcing my expression to remain neutral. Right. I said lightly. Well, I wouldn't miss your housewarming for anything. Lily beamed. Really? Oh, absolutely. As I left, Denise caught up with me outside. Okay. That was either you making peace or you planning a murder. Neither. I pulled out my phone. An email had just arrived from my contractors. Final renovations approved. Work begins next week. I turned the screen toward Denise. She read it. Then looked at me. Oh, My God. She still thinks the sellers are handling the renovations. Denise let out a low whistle. And by the time she finds out, she'll be standing in a house she doesn't own. Denise exhaled. Emma. I have to ask, do you really need to go this far? They're already suffering. Maybe that's enough. Maybe. But then I thought about my mother's voicemails. About how Lily needed me. About how she was so blessed and I needed to just move on. I thought about Jake's hand on Lily's stomach at the restaurant, the same hand that had once held mine. No, I said. My voice steady. It's not enough. That night, I drove past their apartment. The lights were on. Shadows moved behind the curtains. They looked happy. Normal. Like they hadn't destroyed someone else's life to build their own. My phone rang. Eliana. Before you say no, she said when I answered. Hear me out. I sighed. What is it? Family brunch. Sunday. Just you and me. I hesitated. And Lily. And Mom. Eliana. I'll be there too. Running interference. Please. Emma. I hate being stuck between everyone. I closed my eyes. 1 hour. Fine. Sunday arrived too quickly. Lily was already crying before I even sat down. These hormones, she sniffled. Dabbing at her eyes. I'm just so happy you came. My mother beamed. See. This is what family does. We come together. I said nothing. Lily wiped her eyes. The new house is perfect. The owners accepted our offer right away. Jake says it's meant to be. I took a sip of coffee. When do you move in? 3 weeks. Just in time to set up the nursery before I get too big. She pulled out her phone. Want to see the photos? The sellers are even doing some renovations for us before we move in. I glanced at the pictures. My house. My renovations. Lovely. I said. Lily smiled. We're thinking of calling her Ivy. My stomach dropped. What? Our daughter. After you. To show there are no hard feelings. The cafe went silent. Even my mother looked uncomfortable. No, my voice was quiet but firm. Lily blinked. What? You don't get to do that. I said evenly. But I thought. You don't get to steal my life and then name your baby after me like it makes everything okay. Her lower lip trembled. I thought you'd be honored. Honored? I laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. You want to honor me? Try not sleeping with my fiancé next time. Emma, my mother hissed. People are staring. Let them stare. I threw my napkin onto the table and stood. Eliana caught my arm as I turned to leave. That was intense. I glanced at my phone. The contractor's schedule blinked up at me. Work started tomorrow. It's about to get more intense. I said. Eliana frowned. Emma. They didn't feel guilty when they hurt me. I said quietly. They didn't stop when I begged them to. I turned back to the cafe window, watching Lily cry into our mother's shoulder. But they'll feel it now. Eliana's birthday party was packed with familiar faces, family, old friends, and neighbors who were all pretending not to watch me as I navigated through the crowd. It was the first time I had been in a social setting with them since everything. Eric walked beside me, squeezing my hand lightly. We can leave anytime. Not yet, I murmured, scanning the backyard. Jake was standing by the drinks table, checking his phone with a tense expression. The sight of him sent a ripple of satisfaction through me. He knew. He had to know something was wrong. Sophie waved from her seat of honor, surrounded by gift bags full of baby items. Trust her to hijack someone else's birthday party. Emma, she beamed. Come feel the baby kick. I'm good, I said smoothly, grabbing a glass of wine instead. Eliana appeared beside me. Jake's been on his phone all afternoon. Sophie thinks it's work stuff. Bookie stuff. More likely, I muttered. What? Nothing. I took a sip of wine just as my mother approached. Emma, darling. Sophie's about to open presents. Come sit with us. Actually, I said, raising my voice slightly, I'd love to hear more about the house. Sophie. The renovations must be almost done by now. Sophie brightened. Oh my God. Yes. The contractors have been amazing. They're painting the nursery this gorgeous shade of lavender. I watched Jake's face closely. He paled. Contractors, he echoed. Voice tight. Sophie frowned. The ones doing the renovations before we move in. You said the sellers arranged everything. Jake tugged at his collar. Right. Right. Of course. I sighed into my wine, watching him squirm. He hadn't arranged anything. He couldn't have, he didn't own the house. Show everyone the nursery photos, Sophie urged. Before Jake could protest. His phone rang again. Sorry. I need to take this. He walked quickly toward the side of the house. And I followed at a distance. Just close enough to hear. I know I'm late on the payment, he hissed into the phone. The house fell through. Okay. But I've got another plan. No please. Just give me 2 more weeks. Problems. Jake. I stepped into view. He jumped. Ending the call. Jesus. Emma. Were you spying on me? Karma's a funny thing. Isn't it? I leaned against the wall. 1 minute. You're on top of the world. The next. His eyes narrowed. What do you know? I smiled. Nothing. Just thinking about how quickly things can change. Houses slip away. Debts pile up. His jaw clenched. Behind us. Sophie waddled around the corner. Her face bright with curiosity. What are you two talking about? The house. I said smoothly. Jake was just telling me about all the special features, the bay window. The vintage fireplace. The original hardwood floors. Isn't it perfect? Sophie beamed. We're so lucky. The master bedroom has this amazing crown molding. That's being replaced. I cut in. Jake's head snapped up. What? Oh. You didn't know? I tilted my head innocently. The contractors are replacing all the crown molding. And the hardwood floors. And that vintage fireplace, gone by Thursday. Sophie's face fell. But we chose that house because of those features. Jake was visibly sweating now. There must be some mistake. No mistake. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to a photo of the latest renovation update. See? They're making good progress. Sophie studied the image closely. Then she frowned. Wait. That's not. Jake. That's not our house. Of course it is, he said quickly. It's just the angle. No. Look at the address in the background. She zoomed in on the image. A slow, dawning horror spread across her face. This is the colonial we lost. Why do you have renovation photos of a house we don't own? The color drained from Jake's face. Someone else bought it, he stammered. Sophie's voice rose. Then why are you acting like we're moving in? Why did you let me plan a housewarming party? Other guests were starting to stare. My mother hurried over. What's going on? I'd like to know that too, Sophie said. Voice shaking. Jake. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Then turned and walked quickly toward his car. Jake. Sophie tried to follow but stumbled. My mother caught her. What did you say to him? She demanded at me. I shrugged. Just the truth. Sophie sank into a nearby chair. One hand on her stomach. I don't understand. We picked out paint colors. We measured for curtains. How could he lie about this? Across the yard. Eric caught my eye and nodded slightly. My cue to leave before the real storm hit. I turned toward the gate. Pausing only to call out. Happy birthday. Eliana. Thanks for having me. Behind me. I could hear Sophie sobbing. My mother's soothing murmurs. And the growing whispers of gossip. Phase 1 was complete. Now for the real surprise. The demolition dust had barely settled when Eliana found me sitting on my front porch, watching the sun dip behind the partially destroyed colonial. Everyone's looking for you, she said. Settling beside me. Let them look. She handed me a cup of coffee. Jake's in custody. Sophie's staying with your parents. Stress triggered early contractions. I took a sip. The bitterness grounding me. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. They took everything from me. I murmured. And now, I've taken something back. Eliana was quiet for a long moment. And now what? I looked at the house. Now, I rebuild. Not for revenge. For me. Because true victory isn't in destruction, it's in rising from the ruins. Subscribe to Life Stories for more incredible tales of love, betrayal, and redemption.